Canadians, man. What are we gonna do about them? The latest video of ShortFatOtaku was mentioned in my comment section, and so I watched Dev's video just to see what the fuss was about, analyzing the 2024 presidential debate fallout. Now, the first 20 minutes or so of the video is actually pretty good, and it gives a pretty balanced breakdown of the optics of the debate. Then again, it is rather challenging to ignore the glaring realities of Biden's age when he's standing next to Trump. But now that the mainstream media is openly talking about it, Dev is free to do so as well, being the good little obedient status peon that he is. And yes, that absolutely is a shot at him. Again, first 20 minutes, pretty good. However, I wish to focus on what is undoubtedly going to be contentious, because at the end, he turns his attention to Trump. Now, the thing is with Dev, he has developed a reputation of being completely insane and losing his mind whenever Donald Trump is mentioned. I wonder if there's a phrase to describe that very phenomenon. Anyway, let's listen.
So, this entire video I've been talking about the optics of the debate, and how it was a huge L for Biden. But what about the content of the debate? Well, let's be real here. Most people didn't tune into this for an actual discussion of any real policy issue. They were here for political theater. But let's go over content anyway, at least a little bit. I have to admit though, I pulled the wool over your eyes. At least for a few of you guys. At the beginning of the video, around 2 minutes in or so, I casually dropped the exclamation that Trump lied during the debate, and then I just skimmed right over it. Why did I do that? Because I know for a fact there's going to be at least a couple of retards out there who are watching this video right when it releases, who heard me say that phrase, and then immediately left a comment screaming, "OMG, Dev has Trump derangement syndrome. He can never back up any claim he makes. He's an unhinged communist."
Yeah, because those kinds of comments are completely out of the blue and are not born out of any prior experience with you whatsoever.
Before getting to this part of the video, where we actually go over Trump's lies. And just as an aside, if you're actually that guy, you really need to have a sit down and think about why you get so triggered whenever somebody says something negative about Trump.
No, it's just you, because your takes are arse and lacking substance.
You guys do it in my comments anytime I have even the mildest criticism of Trump. Like you're these snowflakes who can't take it when somebody doesn't pledge devotion to the God Emperor or something.
Dev, pulling up a wall of comments saying you have TDS when you're discussing Trump is kinda setting yourself up for disaster if your current critique is not going to be any different from the prior post that got you this reputation in the bloody first place. Do you ever think before you post this kind of nonsense? This is not helping your case, dude. This is the kind of bollocks you do that makes people think you're either ditzy as sin or you're a shit-stirring drama whore.
You have Trump derangement syndrome at this point.
So you admit you have Trump derangement syndrome, which would make the comments correct. All right, carry on.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us.
Trump's very first claim right out the gate, that he had the best economy ever during his first term, is false on multiple metrics.
Oh, Dev, seriously? This is your opening debunking? Really? You know, for someone who analyzes politics, you are shockingly bad at understanding charisma. Well, then again, you are Canadian. This is simply how Trump speaks. Hell, he talks about this in The Art of the Deal. That's just his showmanship gimmick. The same way that Biden yells, "We're America! We're the greatest country!" all of that rubbish, right? Anyone watching Trump knows this is not to be taken literally. The fact that you're this pedantic and pulling out, "well, actually," makes people think you're a fucking dork.
When Trump says better, if we're talking about GDP, Trump's figure averages around 2.49% if you take 2020 out due to COVID. If you leave it in, it's 1.18, but that's not really fair to Trump. But it's not the best ever. Bill Clinton averaged 3.88. And the best ever was between 8 and 9% in 1951. Biden's average is 3.4%, including all of his COVID years. But that probably also takes into account the COVID recovery, which also isn't exactly fair. Nonetheless, Trump does not have the best GDP ever. But GDP is only one measurement. How about employment? 1 month before COVID came to America, February 2020, Trump's unemployment was at 3.5%, which was his best ever month, and the single best month since 1969. That's pretty good, but still not the best ever. Unemployment hit 2.5% in 1953. Due to COVID, Trump's unemployment was up to 6.3% when he left office. Biden is still doing slightly better though. Biden's best numbers come from January and April of 2023, where he hit 3.4%, slightly beating out Trump's best and setting a new record for the lowest monthly unemployment for the past 50 years. Currently, Biden's sitting around a 4% unemployment. Okay, well, what about the stock market performance? One day before Trump left office, January 19th, 2021, the S&P 500 average closed at around 67% above where it had been one day before Trump took office in 2017. That is still not the best though. Obama's first term saw the S&P average rise 84.5%. Clinton has Trump beat on both of his terms. Eisenhower's first term beat him too. All in all, Trump's economy wasn't terrible or anything, but by the data, was he the best ever? No, that was a lie.
You want to impose...
Whoa. That's where you stop? Really? No talk of how the states in the latter stages essentially held the economy hostage with draconian policies that were utterly disconnected with objective reality. No talk of government spending, inflation, energy independence, the price of petrol, or even so much as labor force participation rates. No. You're going to stick to unemployment, the stock market, and GDP. Things which are really on the minds of the average voter as they buy their groceries and fill up their car. You do these long essay-style videos where you apparently read and offer up some substance, but when Trump is involved, you spit out this weak sauce. This is why people call you a communist, Dev, because here you come off like a lazy partisan bitch.
a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously.
In reality, Trump's tariffs represent prices going up for the consumer. And this is something that we all intuitively know, because I went over a similar effect in my video on the minimum wage. Anytime government steps in and artificially inflates the price of a product, whether that's by implementing a minimum wage, driving the cost of labor up, or by, for example, adding a cap to materials needed for manufacturing, driving the cost of the materials up, or by adding a tariff to imported goods, driving the cost of transportation up. All of these have the same downstream effects. The cost of getting the final product to the shelves has increased, so the price the company sells the product at also increases. In this paper discussing the economics of Trump's proposed tariffs from the Peterson Institute for International Economics, it's explained that an average household would end up spending an average of $1,700 more on the same stuff if Trump's tariffs were implemented, as the prices of all imported goods increased to cover the cost of the tariffs. Moreover, the rich would be largely unaffected by these tariffs, because it's poor and middle-class people who spend the majority of their money on imported products, whether that's food or clothing or various luxury goods. Most rich people have the majority of their money in stocks or in physical property, like land or buildings, none of which are imports.
No talk of cutting government spending, domestic energy production, or inflation making the costs rise, or any of that I've noticed. I wonder why. Also, I myself like to be a bit more thorough and skeptical of the TDS sufferer, so let's check out the organization. The Peterson Institute for International Economics. Already I'm rather skeptical. The board of directors' principal goal is to protect and strengthen PIIE's excellence as an independent, nonpartisan, and intellectually rigorous policy research organization that contributes to the public's understanding of and public policies for managing the world's interdependent economy. The board of directors comprises a diverse group of business leaders, former high-level government officials, international civil servants, and distinguished scholars. Independent and nonpartisan. Anyone who says that is a damn liar. Who wrote this piece? Kimberly Clausing. Moving on. During the first part of the Biden administration, Clausing was the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Tax Analysis in the U.S. Department of the Treasury, serving as the lead economist in the Office of Tax Policy. Her research examines how government decisions and corporate behavior interplay in the global economy. She has published numerous articles on the taxation of multinational firms, and she is the author of Open, the Progressive Case for Free Trade, Immigration, and Global Capital. Professor Clausing has received 2 Fulbright Research Awards to Belgium and Cyprus, and her research has been supported by external grants from the National Science Foundation, the Smith Richardson Foundation, the International Center for Tax and Development, the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, and the Washington Center for Equitable Growth. Areas of expertise: climate policy, independent and nonpartisan, my shiny metal ass. By the way, that organization has BlackRock members on its board, as well as people who served at the IMF and who co-authored books alongside Paul Krugman, one of the worst economists to ever live. Just bear that in mind.
Problem they have is they're radical, because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby.
This time, Trump is just lying out of his ass. The quote he's referring to is from former governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, who held office from 2018 to 2022. Northam's quote comes from an interview he gave at a local radio station, WTOP, back in 2019. Listen to it for yourself.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
Now that does sound pretty bad, but what Trump did, and what every other dishonest rightoid does when they talk about this story, is leave out the wider context of the conversation. They always cut out what Northam was saying before the clip.
And governors, you know, the issue of abortion rights emerges every year in the General Assembly session. This year, no exception. There was a very contentious committee hearing yesterday when Fairfax County Delegate Kathy Tran made her case for lifting restrictions on third trimester abortions, as well as other restrictions now in place. And she was pressed by a Republican delegate about whether her bill would permit an abortion, even as a woman is essentially dilating, ready to give birth. And she answered that it would permit an abortion at that stage of labor. Do you support her measure, and explain her answer?
Yeah, and I wasn't there, Julie, and I certainly can't speak for Delegate Tran, but I would tell you, first thing I would say is this is why decisions such as this should be made by providers, physicians, and the mothers and fathers that are involved. There are, when we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion. But again, we want the government not to be involved in these types of decisions. We want the decision to be made by the mothers and their providers. And this is why, Julie, that legislators, most of whom are men, by the way, shouldn't be telling a woman what she should and shouldn't be doing with her body.
And do you think multiple physicians should have to weigh in, as is currently required? She's trying to lift that requirement.
Well, I think it's always good to get a second opinion, and for at least two providers to be involved in that decision, because these decisions shouldn't be taken lightly. And so, I would certainly support more than one provider.
What's being said here is pretty obvious. Northam is talking about a case where a baby is basically not going to make it. They might die in the womb, they might take the mother with them, it might be born and then survive only a few days or a few weeks. When Trump said they want to set the baby aside, that didn't mean kill the baby after birth. Northam is clearly saying that parents or doctors would talk about whether it's appropriate to desperately try and save the baby's life using all possible resources available, or if the best course of action is to make them comfortable and provide palliative care until they die naturally. And that is a case-by-case judgment, depending on the nature of the condition that the child's afflicted with. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your ass about some of the more radical leftoids who legitimately do want those unlimited abortion rights. That shit is pretty disgusting. But Trump framing this conversation as if it's about post-birth abortion is actually pretty fucking insane.
Oh, piss off, you coping Canadian. What a bunch of bullshit. The conversation was about, does this bill allow for an abortion at this stage? And the answer is yes. All you did by playing this clip and providing context is make it seem palatable and justified by employing a hypothetical best-case scenario that everyone knows it is never going to get used for.
He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever.
For the Ukraine one, Trump is technically wrong, but wrong in a way that I don't think Trump fans will actually care about. America has not given more than $200 billion to Ukraine. America's allocated $175 billion to Ukraine, but that's not a blank check. The official budget shows that $117 billion was used to cover the cost of American companies creating military equipment that is being sent to Ukraine, while $57 billion was used to assist Ukrainian refugees and shore up the energy supply crisis in the wake of losing access to Russian markets. Now, maybe you think that America shouldn't be giving Ukraine any money whatsoever.
Agreed. NATO expansion and throwing weapons and screwing with their government is what caused this whole debacle in the bloody first place. Western aggression, even George Kennan, the creator of the Soviet containment program, an American statesman, foretold this back in the early 90s.
I personally disagree with you, but Trump's claim of over $200 billion in cash is just wrong by the numbers.
How about we stop funding foreign wars?
And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name. And he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening.
This super predator comment is one of the signs that Trump might also be suffering from some old age mental problems.
Or it could be because Biden was prominent during this period, the 1994 crime bill, and the mental problem claim is you trying to smear Trump.
He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think, we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
As always, there are open borders crazies on the left, but Biden has never been one of them. In fact, he's implemented regulations that Trump's agreed with in the past. In February of 2023, Biden's administration began to deny asylum to migrants who show up at the American border if they haven't first applied for asylum in a safe country that they pass through to get to America. This is a rule that Trump wanted to implement in 2019, but the composition of the Supreme Court at the time prevented him from doing it. Biden's administration has also deported over 4 million illegals since he took office. There's a lot more work to do, obviously, but Trump's claim that Biden wants open borders is just a blatant lie on the face of it.
Actually, Biden didn't say he wants open borders, but there is a record number of illegals crossing under Biden's watch. That is a direct statement coming from the mouth of Jake Tapper when he was asking Biden about the damn border, Dev.
Now, it's not like Biden didn't have his own lies or half-truths, or stuff he just got wrong. For example, Biden claimed that Trump wanted to destroy Social Security.
He wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare, both times. And that's what, and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well.
When Trump has said directly on Truth Social that he does not. But despite Biden's own factual missteps, overall he did significantly better than Trump. But we all know that these debates aren't really about facts, especially this one. They're about vibes. And Biden, despite being more factually correct, did not pass the vibe check.
That's it? That's all you got? Listen here, you smarmy git. This video demonstrates precisely why so many Trump supporters despise you. You spend nearly 10 damn minutes pedantically hyper-analyzing and nitpicking the content of what Trump said, declaring them to be lies or half-truths. But when it comes to analyzing Biden's answers, you focused on only one measly point he made. And an amusing absence is even a single example from you about what Biden's even done that's been a competent achievement. The first 20 minutes of goodwill you generated in the opening about how Biden looked bad, your silence set on fire when it came to what Biden said during the debate, and even less was said about what he actually did during his tenure as president that was in any way objectively good, as you simply did not give him anywhere near the level of scrutiny as you did Trump. This has been a pattern of your content for years now, and this is why so many have had a bone to pick with you. When it comes to the liberal establishment, it is painfully obvious that you will give them the benefit of the doubt and turn a blind eye. Probably because you're on your knees getting skull-fucked by the state. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.